would like to invite Ms. Nivedita Jadhav, the operationist catalyst EON consultant. She is the session chair here, and I will introduce her in few lines. Nivedita Jadhav is the first national chair for women in ISHRE that was founded in 2017. An active and committed member of ISHRE since 2010, she has held several key leadership roles, including President of the Thane chapter, Society Treasurer, and Society Chair for K-12, Women in ISHRE, Paramount Pharma Connect, and ECRIX 2019 Treasurer. She currently serves as the Society Chair for ISHRE Standards and has contributed towards the development of the BEE Energy Code, ECSBC, and also for the revision of NBC 2025. She is also an active member of ASHRE and has served the chapter president at Mumbai chapter, treasurer at region at large, and the CEC committee at headquarters. She is a seasoned mechanical engineer with over 30 years of diverse experience spanning manufacturing, contracting, sustainability, and MEP consultancy. She is a certified IGBC accredited professional and GREE certified professional, bringing a strong sustainability perspective to her work. Currently serving as the operations catalyst at EON Consultants, Nivedita leads the Mumbai team, driving projects delivery and operational excellence. This is, I don't think this is all about her. It's a very short introduction, and I welcome you, Ms. Nivedita, to conduct the session. Please come.
Do we have hand mics?
You have?
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Now there's some energy. So first of all, it's a very big honor for me because, as a session chair, the selection is normally of the past, of the presidential members. And I've served at the society level as a society treasurer, but never been a president. So it's really a big honor to be selected as one of the session chairs who's not been a president. So of some advantage of being a woman member. So welcome everyone, and thank you all for being here at the Cool Conclave. Good afternoon again. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all today to this panel discussion, which is on driving decarbonization through inclusive leadership, the role of women in shaping low-carbon built environments. Decarbonization is not just a technical or policy challenge. It's a societal transformation. It touches every sector, from energy to manufacturing, to construction, to mobility. And women are not only stakeholders, but they are powerful change makers. So I'm sure you all will agree with this. And to take this discussion forward, we have Nisha Nair. Nisha Nair is an associate director at VKA Powermaster, one of the South India's leading electrical panel manufacturers and ventilation contractor. A second-generation entrepreneur, she has previously worked with IBM India before joining this enterprise. She holds an engineering degree from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore, and a master's in tech entrepreneurship from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Nisha also serves as a national chair for Women in ISHRE and DEI chair for ASHRE Region 15, actively promoting leadership, inclusion, and innovation in the HVAC and built environment sectors. Nisha, I welcome you. So today we all will hear from leaders who have been driving change, breaking barriers, innovating solutions, and influencing policy in ways that directly advance our collective goal for a low-carbon future. So, Nisha, over to you, and thank you for taking up the moderation of this panel.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's my pleasure that you are the session chair of this panel I'll be moderating on. Thank you so much to everybody who's gathered here, and a very good afternoon. And as the woman chair for Women in ISHRE, which started 10 years ago, come a long way. And having Yeah, and having this all panel here at Cool also feels like a huge milestone. I'm sure Ms. Nivedita also feels that way. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists for the day. First, I would like to introduce Anjali Sen. She is the Deputy General Manager at BPTP Limited, India. With nearly a year in her current role, she spearheads sustainable living initiatives and contributes to BPTP's membership outreach with IGBC's Green Building Movement. Welcome you, Anjali. Please join us on the dais. Ms. Shama Jain, a women engineer who needs no introduction in this forum. She is the Managing Director, KIMS Technologies, a UK Essex graduate who joined her family's HVAC business over 2 decades ago. She's now steering growth in energy-efficient HVAC systems in India and navigating a booming greenfield and retrofits market. Welcome, ma'am. She was also the past president of the Indore chapter. Architect Purva Keskar, Director and Environmental Architect at VKE Environmental, co-founded in 2009. With more than 20 years of experience in ESG, a well AP, a lead AP, ECBC compliant energy auditor, she also does carbon footprinting. She has shaped policy at Griha, BEE, IG. She's a member of IGBC Pune and won national awards, including from HUDCO and AESA. And she also was one of the award recipients last night at the Decarbonization Excellence Awards. We're so grateful that you can join us this morning. Welcome you, ma'am. Our next panelist is architect Shruti C. Purohit, founder and MD 9 Squares Architects, Indore, established in 2008. Her hallmark is counter-responsive architect, context-responsive architecture, blending traditional Indian practices with modern sustainability showcased in projects. I welcome you, ma'am, to the dais. Please join us. Our next panelist is Ms. Sujal Shah, Director at New Age Firefighting Co. Limited, now a third-generation leader and national chair, the president of FSAI Pune chapter. She combines firefighting equipment manufacturing leadership with advocacy in women's business network and safety standards. We welcome you, Sujal, onto the stage. Panelists couldn't join us this morning, and we also thought it would be interesting to have a perspective from a male. Okay, so we have may I request Mr. Sandeep to join us on this panel as the wild card, panelist, to bring a different context to this panel discussion. So we will now begin with the panel, and I'd actually like to start with you, ma'am, Purva. Yeah. So I'd like to hear from you, if you could share your opening remarks on this very topic of driving decarbonization through inclusive leadership. And at the same time, you're somebody who's driven, who designs high-performance buildings with a core, sustainability aspect to it. So as we move towards net zero buildings, what are the knowledge or implementation gaps that you're observing, and how best can we address this?
My God, that's quite a big question. What I would do is maybe start with the first of opening, and then maybe after others give their opinion, I come back to the next question. But I generally feel that, over the years, I've seen that, inclusive leadership is really increasing in Indian context. However, I find that even today, we have to have a separate panel, where women would express themselves in a very different way, and people would like to hear what we women are trying to say. So really thanks to ISHRE and Cool Conclave for having such, curating such a panel where, we are heard. And when I say when we are heard, I want to say that, yes, we find a lot of women nowadays. When I started work in 2004, specifically with, my focus on green building and energy efficient, high performance buildings, there were very few ladies in this field.
Right.
And over the years, I've seen increase. Maybe Nivedita will echo my feelings. And always we found that in the meetings there were only one or, only a solitary lady who was a part of any engineering team or even architecture team for that matter. Even today, when you look at the statistics, only 10% of the women are, leading, as well as you find that on boards, you just find 4.5% women on the boards, taking decisions. So yes, we have a long way to go. But in our culture, we had a maternal kind of a culture where women were supposed to be decision makers in the house, probably even, giving a lot of, they have that inherent quality of giving care and thinking empathetically about any issue that they have to solve. And I think that's the strength that we bring to the table. And I think with the times changing and the generations evolving, we have, millennials and the Gen Zs and now Gen Alphas. And I think more than, at one end when we have to, as ladies, express our intelligence in terms of technical intelligence, I think emotional intelligence is something which is really important in the future. And that is what we are getting to the table.
Right. Thank you so much. That's a very interesting start to this topic, and thank you for sharing your views with us. I would next like to go to Anjali. Anjali, I think the question to you came easiest to me when we were discussing, when we had this panel put together, because you are somebody who is representing the developer aspect of it and driving sustainability from that lens. So even earlier today, we were discussing, what are the challenges that you face as the head of sustainability for a developer from the boardroom to the ground? Do you, are the struggles right there convincing them to invest in these low carbon technologies, or is it at the ground to get this implemented? Yeah, I'd like to hear from you on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nisha. And thanks to the organizing committee for having me here. It's truly an honor for me to sitting here in this panel, alongside with all such experienced and distinguished guests. So the question you have asked, the challenges, right? So it's been
you could
over.
Be louder or hold the mic.
Hello. Yeah, I'm audible. So over 10 years of experience I have, and I have worked in multiple sectors. I was in Godrej, manufacturing, bank, and warehousing sector. So I have seen different mindset leaderships. So the main challenge comes from the top management when their vision, their decisions are not aligned with the sustainability. So that it's very important when you have such leadership who is aligned with this goal that they have to do, not only just for their business revenue, their growth, but yes, they are aligned. They understand the sustainability terms, the ESG terms, why it is important, not only just as a compliance part,
right,
but yeah, they think that it is required, it is necessary, it's a need of an hour. So yeah, so in BBTP, I don't face much challenge from the leadership team because they are very much aligned. I joined, it's been 1 year for me that I've joined. But the downline, the team, getting the data, aligning them because they are not aware of ESG and sustainability terms, right? So we are doing all the green buildings for our projects. We are getting certified, getting platinum. We have targets to do that. But again, the alignment of the, team is very much required. We have to do upskilling, Like this is the missing term in all the companies. So we have a very short team. The main challenging, again, the second topic is like I am the only one who is representing this ESG team. So we need at least a bigger team, because the ESG and sustainability is a very big chapter. Lot many things are there to do.
Yes, right. So if I may just, just add on to that thought, you did mention that even often when the board or, the leadership team is aligned, it's probably, down the, how do we percolate this further? You did mention a very interesting topic of upskilling and training, but do you want to add a little bit more to that on how that could be addressed from the larger lens?
So see, people or the leadership are knowing the terms, but even they are not aware how to do, what's the process of doing it, right? So when you have a right people in the team, so and obviously the confident one, it's not like you have a team and they are not having a convincing power and taking the topics to the leadership or boardroom, right? So I'm, blessed in that terms. So that whatever I am presenting, proposing for, for our future developments, for ESG integration in all the departments, they said just go ahead in one of the meetings. So that kind of, leadership team, if you have, then you are lucky and you'll do good definitely in this.
Right, understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think I'd now like to come to Shama. Shama, you're a HVAC manufacturer, and today, KEMS is spread across India and I think even across the globe in many countries. I think from the manufacturer lens, if you could throw some idea about the innovations that is happening, the technologies, and especially as a manufacturer, how important is embodied carbon today, and how receptive are our developers, consultant on that aspect. Because even in forums like this today, we've been talking a lot about operational carbon, and we often neglect the embodied carbon. And with India, the pace at which development is happening, that is an important aspect. And I'd like to hear about it from you as an entrepreneur, a women entrepreneur, and as a manufacturer.
Thank you for having me. Actually, when we talk about carbon footprints, it's all about how you design a project in totality. When we talk about consultants today, architects today, they are visioning or talking about IKW per TR in a broader perspective. So major focus when we are manufacturing machines, specifically chillers, heat pumps, what we are aiming at reducing the electrical consumption in totality. So how this electrical consumption can be reduced and how we can reduce the carbon footprints or how emissions in the market is the major aim and goal of the entire society when we talk about consultants, contractors, architects, builders, clients, as well as the manufacturers. Okay, so where this embodied carbon comes from, normally when we talk about our perspective, is one is refrigerants. We use green refrigerants, and
Right.
two is how do we reduce the total refrigerant charge to the machine. So we were quite lucky at KEMS to have a background of SEAT, which was a European make, and because our roots came from Europe, we were inherently taught how to reduce the complete refrigerant charge to our systems and machines. And this is how we have always manufactured and marketed to make sure that we are driving this force of decarbonization to the level where we are reducing the use of refrigerant, using green refrigerants, and we are reducing or making the machines more energy efficient.
Right. And just a follow-up question on that. If you would want to talk about LCA, today we see a lot of Green Pro certifications coming for products. Do you think that's going to go a long way in helping manufacturers bench up?
Actually, in today's era, we see most of the manufacturers are moving towards this green certification. So everybody's single motto is to reduce the carbon footprint. So I don't think that it is a challenging job for the manufacturers, because today, whenever we go attend the conferences across the globe in India, what we see is majorly all the parts or the components coming to India which are more energy efficient. So I don't think there is any challenge in making this step forward towards the energy efficiency.
Right. Thank you so much for that perspective. I'd now like to come to architect Shruti Purohit. Ma'am, we were discussing earlier today, you do a lot of work with the government, with the policymakers, and at the same time, your projects are so varied, right from residential, commercial. So we were discussing about urban spaces and how it happens in silos. And, I think it'd be interesting for the audience to know, if you could tell us what is happening in the policy, design, and sustainability spaces, and how inclusive or not so inclusive it is today. And if it is not so inclusive, especially for when there are women or children or specially abled members of the society, how do we make these public spaces? As an architect, what are your views on that?
Thank you so much for having me here, and I really want to congratulate कि इतना अच्छा एक diverse panel है. People coming with different kind of expertise on this stage. Whether it is talking about any residential or commercial project or any project which is at urban design or urban planning scale. So I feel that it is all about what you do, what you have in your mind. So I think things are very simple, because as a woman, opportunities may not come directly to you. You have to create that opportunity. And similar is that sustainability or the thought of energy efficiency would not be, it's not a choice anymore. That, whether you have to do this or you may not do this. If you are someone, a very sensible practitioner in whatever capacity, then it is ought to be done. I think we have reached that stage, and हमारा जो culture है, Indian culture है, it's very deep rooted, and we know what are the sustainable practices. So if I am talking about, like, for example, we are doing zonal plan for Indore. So zonal plan is a tool which is the next level or next layer to the master plan of any city. Now we see there is a lot of chaos in the entire, in all the cities. You go to any part of, luckily Indore has that benefit of, being the cleanest city and all that. But at the same time, there is a lot of chaos. So what are we doing? So, for example, the very basic thing that we have attempted in zonal plan is trying to preserve all the blue-green infrastructure. So you have so many water streams going to the lakes and the water bodies which are getting polluted or which are getting encroached upon. So ensuring that there is water running in the blue and there is some green as a buffer. So you preserve it, you generate an urban landscape, a very natural landscape where everyone can go. You were talking about, making cities safe. These are the areas where maximum encroachment or crimes happen, because these are the abandoned areas of the city. So the moment we start taking care of these spines, I'm sure the city will start getting comfortable and livable for all age groups, whether it is women or senior citizens or children for that matter.
Right. Ma'am, I'd like to also understand from you, how is the government driving this from a top-down approach? Especially we've been very fortunate to have the mayor and a lot of other distinguished members of the government of Madhya Pradesh be here. So is there anything particular that you would like to mention about the MP government driving these initiatives from a top-down approach when it comes to policy?
Government is definitely trying. I mean, I wouldn't say that it is a 10 on 10 kind of situation, but yes, at least they've started talking about it. It has to happen in that trickle down effect has to go very positively, that you know, at policy level, you meet a PS or a senior bureaucrat and there are certain things decided. But when it comes to actual execution level, you should be, or one should be able to really push it forward. Right. So there are some gaps which need to be, so I feel, especially when we are talking about bureaucracy or people who are working with the government, not for the government. So at that level, there's a lot of education, there's a lot of orientation which needs to take place, because even those people who are on the side taking care of all the execution are really well oriented that, you know, these small things, these may be baby steps, but these are very critical, very important, and this is how the project has been conceived, or that is how the policy is going to, policy should be driven while executing these projects. So this is very, very important.
You're absolutely right. I do also think that the government is one of the most important, or if not the most important stakeholder for impact to happen at a large scale. And the mayor did mention that education was one of the key initiatives that they were driving here, and that they believe that when there is education and then, you know, the people cooperate with the initiatives that the government are trying to drive. Thank you so much for that. I would next like to come to Sujal. Sujal, you bring probably a very diverse aspect to this panel. Fire, as we know, is very energy heavy, water heavy, again, embodied carbon very high. But whenever we talk about fire and life safety, the focus is always on safety, which is, of course, the paramount of that particular aspect of the built environment. But I'd like to hear your views on where we stand today and how we can incorporate fire safety into our built environment from a sustainable lens.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you for this question. So yes, I come from a very, niche industry, fire, which is quite, which is ignored the most probably, I would say, because AC के बिना हम नहीं रह सकते हैं, पर हमारे बिल्डिंग में हाइड्रेंट लगे हैं कि नहीं, होज लगे हैं कि नहीं, लगे भी है तो चलेंगे कि नहीं, उसकी हमें फिक्र नहीं है. So I would like to start with a question. How many of you, while entering this hall, or we have been here in this premise since 3 days, how many of you have really bothered to see कि fire exit कहाँ पे है? Honest question. So there are only handful of people, maybe 10 गिनती, अगर मैं गिनूँ तो 10 भी नहीं, but yes. So this is, this is the reality of all of us, and I would also include myself. So I just wanted to make this a point कि fire is really the most ignored topic. हम लोग इसके ऊपर ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं देते हैं. But now that, we are talking about lot of sustainable things and, decarbonization in built environment and things like that. Now, for a building or for any property to be sustainable, it has to be safe. Safety is one of the most basic aspects, and I'm sure if Purva madam can also, endorse this fact, because you have been, as a green building consultant, you have been certifying a lot of projects. So I would like you to endorse if safety is also important feature in that or not. If not, it must be given, a lot of importance. When we talk about fire and safety, again, safety comes first. Evacuating, the people is the most important thing. But then taking care of the property is also very, very important. क्योंकि आपने जब बिल्डिंग बनाया, आपका चाहे प्लैटिनम रेटिंग हो, कुछ भी हो, आग लगी और पूरा बिल्डिंग अगर डैमेज हो गया, तो you are standing at zero, and this is not net zero. So this is ground zero that I'm talking about. So yes, fire and safety is very important. When we talk about high energy, high water, historically, yes, fire and safety, talking about firefighting systems, historically they used to be very resource intensive, but nowadays, people have started focusing on making fire safety also sustainable, like using maybe energy efficient pumps, using the mist systems rather than using, water, because जो historical places है जहाँ पे पानी, if you flood them, if you flood the premise with water, if there's a temple or if there's something of historic importance, you are damaging the property, even if you are, trying to douse the fire, but you are damaging the property. So mist is the technology which is being used over there. Initially, for the fuel fires or for the petrochemical fires, we used to use foam. Now these foams had fluorine, now which are not safe for the environment. So yes, the technology is shifting. We have, fluorine-free foams, environment-friendly foams. The foams which do hamper the environment are starting to get banned. Halon gas is not being used as one of the suppressing agents. So yes, I mean, we can see the awareness is rising. Of course, we are not there yet because, like I said, fire का ही awareness नहीं है तो sustainable तो बहुत दूर की बात है. But I really hope that, the entire green community of the built environment will also focus more and more on fire. So yeah, yeah.
That's a very interesting aspect. So you are a core part of ISRE today, and you know that ISRE is driving the built environment space. We are no longer just a HVAC society, and we're trying to be more inclusive. And I'm sure there will be more initiatives along those lines that you did mention. You want to come in here, ma'am? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, because you asked me a question which I didn't answer that time, but I would like to go after.
Sure, I will come back to you. It's on
Yes,
my mind.
thank
Yeah. So Sandeep ji, I would request you to first please start with a small introduction. I know you are a HVAC contractor, and I do wish to ask a question from that lens because you're probably the only contractor on this panel. But before that, could you please give our audience a small introduction about you and your organization?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sandeep Shenoy. I have founded a company which is now known as Anukul India Private Limited, which is into business of contracting for last 25 years. And in last few years, we have started this initiative on which I would like to talk more and less about my contracting business, which is purely a brick and mortar business. And that's about me. I'm an engineer, worked with a multinational company for a few years before I started this. Trekking is my hobby, and I love to read history of geography and geography of history, as I would like to put it. That's about me.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Now my question to you is, there are well-meaning developers, there are well-meaning architects, there are well-meaning consultants, but on ground, when it comes to contractor, what are the challenges you think you face as a contractor today to not just implement, say, a design document or a design indent, but how do you think contractors are approaching sustainability on a project-specific basis?
See, as a contractor, we don't have much choice because design is frozen by the architect in consultation with architects are frozen with the consultant. So we don't have much leverage in changing the design part of it. But still, there are two important components, which are still there. That is build, and second is obviously operate and maintain. And that's the secondary and tertiary, as we call it in our business. And there's a lot we can do. We can, as a contractor, we can suggest a lot of material which is available locally. We can have better practices, like without using the electric power, you can use battery operated construction power at site. You can keep the site clean. That is also part of the sustainability. Your ducts can be closed, taped, so that there's less dust. So if you really, we can go on and on and on in terms of the opportunities for sustainable practices as for the contractor's perspective. And again, in operations, there are many ways. Like someone said, people are still putting the thermostat at 21, 22. They talk on the pedestal that, global warming, but they go back and their life as usual. They put their thermostat back to 22. If we can, educate and create this behavioral change that it is not 24, it's 25, 26, get used to this kind of a temperature setting. So these are the areas in, build and operate spaces where a contractor can make a difference, not so much in really design as such.
Yeah, you did mention operation and maintenance, which is again a very important part. And also it was very interesting to note the material selection, the products that we use, and how contractors can make a difference. I'll come back to you, ma'am, now. So we've had a developer's perspective, we've had manufacturer, we've had ma'am share it from a urban perspective and a contractor perspective. I do want to come back to that first question. You've been part of a lot of green certifications. You've seen the rise of green certifications in our country. What are the implementation gaps, or in fact even knowledge gaps that you see, and how best can we address them?
Yeah, so starting with the knowledge gap, I feel that, architects generally feel that they are the, kind of only people who are going to add value to the project at the design stage. So I think that awareness that you need a proper team right at the design board is the first knowledge gap,
Right.
The architects should realize that. I think most of you here, how many of you are into HVAC? Can you raise hands? And do the architects approach you at the design board when they are at the design board or later? I think it's moreover, once the design is frozen, they would come to you to ask you, what technology. So they look at it, the decarbonization or the energy efficiency or energy, systems in the building as a technology which is to be added and not a part of design. So that's the first knowledge gap. I think an architect should be, kind of awareness should be there that if it is an integrated team, then you have a great chance of reducing the energy consumption without much costs. Otherwise, generally, there is a notion that if you want energy efficiency and decarbonization, it is going to cost you more. So that's the first myth, and awareness should be regarding that. Further to that, in terms of green building, I should say that there is a major knowledge gap. Green buildings are treated as just assessing tools, where you just put a tick mark, this is done, that is done, and you start documenting, and you'll find that over the years, many green building consultants, the number has increased. But I think the green building consultant also, there is a knowledge gap which says that you have to go to the bottom of things. If you are consulting, it's not just ticking mark, but you will have to know the building science and the building physics of it, where calculations and how the building behaves in terms of material selection and how it interacts with the energy systems. So first and foremost, how the building behaves is also not a very, knowledge that architects have, nor do the green building consultants have. I'm really sorry to say that. But there is a knowledge gap there, and that needs to be bridged. So it's not only for building, but in terms of water efficiency, water management, waste management, we have a very senior, my mentor sitting here, Mr. Hariharan, and when I discussed with him, I realized that just ticking mark water management is not enough. You have to go to the bottom of things, understand water in its root. So for every aspect of green building, you will have to develop that expertise, and you will have to acknowledge that, these MEP consultants, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, would also have to go beyond thumb rule designing. They'll have to question the norms. Like yesterday in ISHRE, the school conclave itself, someone was questioning the NBC, saying that if we are really reducing the use of water by way of, having low flow fixtures, why are we yet demanding, why is the NBC yet demanding and putting a standard which says that 135 liters per person per day? Why not value engineer the entire system, which doesn't start only at, reducing the, pump size, but also the STP size, and, it's a complete network that gets reduced, which results not only in embodied energy reduction, but also in operational energy reduction. So knowledge gaps are everywhere, and I think we need to start talking to each other. The MEP, the green building consultant, architects, the entire team, in fact, should learn from each other and take a project as an opportunity to go to the root cause of, consumptions and carbonization, and then come out with a vision for a particular project depending on which context it sits in. Like ma'am was talking about green and blue infrastructure, whether there's a nala flowing and what do you do about the nala. Just don't cover it off and put some kind of a report in the environment clearance, which is to be done for large projects. So I think every project is a kind of an opportunity.
Right. You made a very important point. You made a very important point of all the stakeholders coming together and integrating right at the start. And, I've been on so many panels, and this is a topic we've been talking about for so many years, but there's still so much ground to make on that front. Like I once had a consultant who said, no, you have to turn off your ventilation fan because uska kilowatt zyada hai. And I was like, it's a fire safety requirement that basement needs to be ventilated. So, I think you struck that chord in the answer that I was looking for. Like from the contractor, the consultant, the architect, we all need to sit down right at the drawing board stage to have this addressed in a meaningful way in the long run. So I think I will now I do want to ask one question on retrofit. Anybody on the panel can take it. Maybe Shama, you can. Retrofit is again a very interesting vertical that we're seeing. While a lot of focus is on the new buildings that we're making, and somebody mentioned yesterday that 50% of the buildings yet to be made, the infrastructure yet to be made in India is going to happen in the next 10 years. But retrofitting of old buildings, how important are they? What are you doing as a manufacturer for that particular vertical?
So retrofit topic itself is very, very important because we're talking about the machines or the technologies which were installed maybe about 10-15 years back, which means that IKW per TR of those machines, those technologies, vis-a-vis the machines and technologies available today is completely and totally different. Plus, people at that level do not maybe sometimes understand that it's not about only changing the machine, it's about again reducing the carbon footprint and taking a way towards decarbonization. So Government of India as an initiative also has brought a lot of ways to help people take up the initiative of retrofitting. First, I'll talk about government, then I'll talk about the manufacturing. So what the government does is that they have provided BEE accreditation to many of the parties where they can provide ESCO or a boot mode where the capital investment towards retrofitting can be spread to maybe 36 months or 48 months the way the operator wants to foreplay, okay? So that is how the capital investment can be staggered. Once we give this facility to the property owners or the people who are thinking about retrofitting, it becomes easier for them to at least take that initiative and start thinking about retrofitment. I have also seen that many of the consultants and contractors are not only now dealing with greenfield projects, but also retrofitting because they also have understood that retrofitting is a big part towards the decarbonization drive. Now, when we talk about us as manufacturers, we see how old the equipment has been, how energy guzzling that equipment has been. Energy auditors in many ways help us see those sites where the machines have been very old, past their age, but still people are using just because they do not have capital investment to again invest in a new machine. And then we make it a practice that coming up with the consultant, the energy auditor, this BEE accreditation towards the ESCO, and then provide them an option towards making their building again green and making sure that their machines are up to mark to today's world. Most of the green buildings which were certified 10 years back are also required to be upkeep. We have seen so many green buildings where they have got the certification, but that certification has not been valid from the green building perspective only and only because they have not upkeep their machines, they have not upkeep their indoor units, and they have not made sure that the expectation of green building norms which were from that specific property owner or operator has been fulfilled or not.
Right. Thank you for that lens. Yeah, sure.
So when you're talking about retrofit, I just thought of asking the audience a question. your mobile handset. How old is your mobile handset? Anyone can tell me how often you replace your mobiles? 3-4 years? How many of them 3-4 years, and how many of them every 3-4 years? How many every year with the new Apple model coming up or Samsung model coming up? 1 year में कितने लोग करते हैं change? Come on, be frank. So even 3-4 years, I mean, mine is 2 years old. This is the new one, but I replaced it after 3 years. So but still 3 years. We talk about technology change every 3 years, but what about your equipment at home? How many years you use your refrigerator or your TV? Those carbon footprint, doesn't that count? So think about it.
Thank you. And this is open to all the panelists. You can come in at any point if you want to supplement to another panelist.
So as Purva ma'am was saying, and I very rightfully agree, कि किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट को जब हम डील करना शुरू करते हैं, so what is that starting point? How sensible we are at there? Of course, integrating technology, our age-old traditions, that is the biggest challenge. If we can do that in our scenario, I think we are the winners. And as architects, as consultants, and even as clients, what is important is that we do look at passive technologies also, passive methods of designing, because before you start designing a project, orientation, and there are many, many more things which can really cut down on energy consumption, and it will lead to sustainability. And trust me, whether or not we are going for any green certification, if we do our projects very sincerely, इसका आधा achievement तो वैसे ही हो जाता है. On this note, I would like to just share a few lines. क्योंकि COVID के समय, I think there was a lot of retrospection happening. Each had the time to go through introspection and whatnot. So I had just written a few lines, and it very well relates to our topic. बहुत कोशिश की कुछ लिख डालूं, दिल में जो ज़ब्त है उसे कह डालूं, क्यों उगा लेते हैं कांच की दीवारें, क्यों उगा लेते हैं कांच की दीवारें, तपते सूरज से भर लेते हैं अंगारे, खरीद लाते हैं फिर मुट्ठी भर कुछ ठंडी हवा, जैसे बन गई वो हर मर्ज की दवा, क्यों नहीं खंगालते पुराने संदूक में दबा वो गूढ़ ज्ञान, कुछ कमरे थे और कुछ थे दालान, दालान यानी वरांडा, कोर्ट, आंगन में फुदकती नन्ही गौरैया, ठंड की धूप बहती पुरवैया. आई एम कटिंग इट शॉर्ट. नापते जा रहे हम छत दर छत, नापते जा रहे हम छत दर छत, क्या वापस कर पाएंगे जंगल और दरख्त? महसूस करें हम क्या चाहती हैं खिड़कियाँ, महसूस करें हम क्या चाहती हैं खिड़कियाँ, इमारतों की रूह में पनपती हैं जिंदगियाँ. अपनी लकीरों को एक पहचान दें. We all are, shaping the future of urban India. अपनी लकीरों को एक पहचान दें, जो बचा है उसमें अपनी जान दें, जो बना चुके उसका हिसाब लगाएं, कुदरत से जो लिया उसे ज़रूर लौटाएं. बहुत कर ली सबने मनमानी, आओ लिखें हम एक दौरे रवानी, बात तो है ये बहुत पुरानी, हर कविता में छुपी है एक नन्ही कहानी.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yes, ma'am, please.
I think, you're talking about retrofitting, and I generally feel that, right, she mentioned that, the green building certifications are not recertified. The buildings are not upkept and recertified. That is one problem. But I feel that there is no benchmark also existing in our country for EPIs of different, building typologies for one to really adhere to and understand whether your building is consuming more or less. So if I am able to at least understand if I am consuming more than my neighbor with the same typology of building, I will be kind of, aware that that I need to do something about it. So that kind of data is not available first. And I think it should be by the government that if this data is made available, then people will be aware and they will start thinking of retrofitting.
Right.
Also, retrofitting should make good sense in terms of return on investments, and of course, we do change our mobiles and we should look at changing our technologies, but we also need to understand that it's not only for having energy efficiency, but also giving good indoor environment quality to the people inside.
Right.
So that is also something which we should be looking at when we think of retrofitting.
Absolutely. You did mention a very interesting point about how, digitization. You said data today is not available. With a lot of digitization now coming into place, it's still quite scattered. Maybe the government might take initiative to have benchmarks. That's again needed. Otherwise, what else will you peg it up against? But I think also with the emerging technologies, with AI coming in, and then over the span of time, deep learning and machine learning, I think we are quite hopeful of starting to get intelligent data very soon. And as an engineer, that is my hope.
Also, I would like to answer Sujal because she was mentioning about green buildings not taking cognizance of fire so much, but it's not the case, because the first line that any green building certification would say is that you have to follow all the norms and have all the no objection certificates from the government regulatory aspects. Because see, what happens is fire is a part of regulatory aspect, and you won't get your plan passed till you get a fire NOC is what we call. So that those all the regulatory aspects expected by some other department supersedes the green building certification, and therefore the first line or the first mandatory criteria says that you have to comply to all that, and only if you comply, then you will get a green building certificate. So in that sense, indirectly, it addresses that issue.
Thank you for that. So we are towards the end of this panel, and I do want to come back to women leadership, but in your opening remarks, you did mention that we are woefully underrepresented on boards and on important tables. At this point, I do want to bring back Sandeep ji. It's very interesting what his organization is doing, and if you could throw some light on that to our audience, please.
Yeah. So this topic is decarbonization and role of women. And so decarbonization, to my mind, is a resultant. You don't try to chase things. You do things every day, day in, day out, and at one fine day you will reach the goal of decarbonization. So it's not a panacea. It's not it's not something to chase. You do basic things, commonsensical things every day consistently, and you reach that goal of decarbonization. And along with this D of decarbonization, there's a lot of talk of digitization. A lot of IoT-based companies, AI companies coming into and trying to solve the problem of data, as someone said. And to me, there's another D which lends a lot of weight to this whole effort of decarbonization, and that is democratization of knowledge. So there's decarbonization, there is digitization. Then what about democratization? And when I say democratization, it means this whole knowledge of life and fire safety, of sustainable practices. It is not reaching to the masses. See, we talk about COP29, 30 is around the corner. We talk of policies. We talk of lot many things at a policy level. In such programs, nothing wrong. Obviously, they should be there. One way to disseminate this knowledge. But all these are at 40,000 feet views, right? At the ground level, also there are so many things which we can do, to kind of create an immediate here and now impact. And the difficult point, or where I feel really bad, is we talk something on a pedestal, but when we go back, we really don't follow it up through. By our own behavior, I'm including myself into that. And why is because this is again a behavioral change. Like Indore changed the behavior, and that's why they are the cleanest city, not by a technology. At the end of the day, it's the people who drove that change. So just to draw it, just to link it to our topic, women. My whole comment is why am I here, first of all, right? And I would like to, I would take that much time because you six spoke, right? I am only one. So kindly cut me some slack, and I would like to labor few of the points at least. And that's why I'm in this panel. So this story, and probably the story is what will keep, be in your mind for a long time, even this program is over. I got a chance call in COVID, August 2020, from one of the reputed NGO, which is a corporate reputed NGO, saying that they cannot place 3 ITA girls. They cannot place 3 ITA girls. They also passed out from a very reputed multinational institute, and it was a frantic call. The girls are, jobless. They tried few corporates. Corporates said no. Safety, it's a field job. We don't want to give an opportunity. We don't want to change a policy, right? And they were looking up to me because we had a skilling school, but we didn't have girls that time. And that lady, she called me 2-3 times, and I said, let's take a chance. Let's onboard them first, and let's see what happens later on. And so this all happened by freak. It was not design. It was not my intention. No, no high moral standing here. Let me be very honest. It was pure serendipity. And it so happened that those 3 girls, ITI electrical, and they were living in a far off suburbs. MMR. I come from Mumbai, and you have places like Kalyan and even far beyond. And so we created equity, and we offered them job from 8:30 to 4 o'clock because they had to go back. They can't travel by crowded local trains. And we used those girls and skilled them and created trainers out of those girls. Right? We sent them 1 month with an escort on the sites for the safety. And then we realized that it is not workable. It is not workable. It is only a grandstanding, but it doesn't work. Let me tell you, very hardcore job. So we said, okay, come back. We'll figure out what to do next. And then we were already running a skilling school called Anukula Gurukul, and we converted all those 3 girls into skilling profession. And they were very happy because they had seen a couple of months of on-field experience. And the next part is the best part. In which areas we created those skills? We created in indoor air quality, we created in fire and life safety, and we created in efficiency. So we picked up these 3 areas and created and converted those 3 girls as our trainers, like our flagship trainers. And we believe that that is the true inclusion of girls in the workforce, and it is directly impacting the democratization of knowledge and helping the decarbonization. This is the theme I would like to, and it takes, it's easy to, onboard, but unless it is a top-down approach, it is done every day, it is, with a passion, with a larger purpose. As I always say, it doesn't matter what you do, but what is the purpose behind it. And we really believe that, it can be done, and we did it. And my 2 cents on this is only this way, that democratization is important. Democratization of knowledge at the ground level. We may talk all carbon sequestration, technology, but at the ground level, those ITA guys, those technical team on site, they do not have the buy-in, whether it's a girl or a boy, I don't care. You will not move forward. These talks will come, will go, we'll meeting, we'll have networking, but to create an impact, the change has to start at the ground level, and you have to democratize this knowledge. You have to create the platforms and, skilling schools and whatnot. Easy to say, but difficult to do. But I'm very proud that we have been at it for last 5 years, and now it is showing results.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for that.
So I think that is something really wonderful which you did. And just adding to it, what he said is what they did was, I think you created leaders. You picked up few people, you trained them, you gave them an opportunity, and you created leaders. So, if I have to talk about role of women in decarbonization or for anything for that matter, what really needs to be done is, to create an inclusive environment. I would really, I would wait for times where we would not be sitting on the stage talking about like handful of 3 or 4 girls who somebody picked and trained and created, her a leader, and we have to clap for it. Do we clap when there are guys, when there are boys who are getting trained and, they become leaders? Do we clap for them? No. So right now we are in the times where we have to clap for girls. If I achieve something, I get a greater applause. Then, my counterpart, like my brother, he works exactly same hours like what I work. But then, does anybody over here know who my brother is? No. I mean, he works with me and we work together. So I think I'm waiting for a time where, we do not really have to applaud women or girls for what they are doing, because this is normal, this is natural what we are doing, and it should be, it should come, it should come within us कि अच्छा ये भी कर रहा है, ये भी कर रही है, इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है. So what you did is fantastic, because that is need of the hour, but each one of us sitting here and each one who is not even here should be doing the same thing, and we should be focusing towards the time where we do not have to clap for these things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sujal. Ma'am, closing remarks from the panelists here. If you could leave the young women or all the panelists, most of them are men, interestingly, if you had one message to give them to leave with all of us in these closing remarks, over to you.
So basically, I totally relate to what Sujal said, that I don't want that Women's Day is celebrated. And if at all, then it has to be Men's Day also. And decarbonization is also on similar grounds, that we don't have to discuss these topics on particular days and whole workshop. This should become way of life, and that is how this Mother Earth can survive. Thank you so much.
If you could, in your closing remarks, also talk about how we can improve that number on decision-making tables. I'm keen to hear that.
I think government has already done that by saying that 1,000 companies registered with SEBI should give a BRSR report, which means that you should have a lot of diversity in your group, and therefore suddenly you start getting calls from companies which say that we want an independent director, and especially to bridge our gap for diversity, we would like to have women there, and the government has taken their step, and I think we should not be taken on boards because the government wants us. Right. I think there should be a time when we are valued, and valued for who we are, not not on the gender basis, but because of the value that we would bring to any initiative that we are involved in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anjali, as a young professional, your closing remarks, I'm quite curious to know, how could a young professional in this field take this forward? What is one advice you'd want to give them? Where do you see us in, say, 2030, 5 years from now, on a panel similar to this?
Thank you. Am I audible? Hello. Yeah. So first of all, this is my first panel discussion where I'm sitting and, hearing, because earlier I used to listen from sitting in the audiences, and it's okay. But when you sit here, then you can feel and vibe. And sitting among all these, experienced and such thoughtful ladies, this is commendable. So I have just one line I'll say. Women is not only a contributor, we are a catalyst.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So long way to go. I hope, young women are, I think, we need again more explore karna padega, the kind of like strength we have. The count is very less. So I think the sir ne jo bola, he's supporting women in that way. I think if all the industries have such leaders, then we'll definitely grow more and have more power to, change the things.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Shamaji, in your closing remarks, you've personally been a huge inspiration for me as a second-generation women entrepreneur. So your closing remarks, again, maybe from an entrepreneurship lens and leadership aspect. Yeah.
Thank you, Nisha. Well, inherently, women have always been multitaskers. So I personally think that we are not doing anything unnatural, bringing up the society, the families, and the businesses all together. I have been blessed with 2 daughters myself, and KEHEMS is always going to be women leadership, at least till, other 3rd generation for sure. So I don't think personally that there should be a different space for us. We have a similar space with all of you together, and we contribute in the similar way.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to, a huge round of applause for all our panelists. Yeah. No.
Decarbonization is a far bigger challenge. It's a cliche. And why women? And I tend to go back to the topic, just to hold it true, is, to my mind, the creativity and empathy are 2 important parameters which are required to challenge this, issue. 2 biggest parameters, creativity and empathy. And I have a reason to believe that women have the competitive advantage when it comes to these parameters.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. These are also skill sets that have been, certified, and, there's a lot of research being done. And, research says that women leaders are a lot more empathetic, and that actually changes a lot of dynamics, which is also probably why the government is taking steps towards that direction. I'd actually now like to open it up to our audience here. Any questions? If you could walk up to the stage, please.
Thank you. It's a pleasure hearing all your thoughts. I think very diverse panel. Thank you. So I'm from Smart Joules, and we build cutting-edge high optimization technologies for different clients. One of my questions is that it's Smart Joules' dream to really build women leadership right from project to operations role, right? Right now, of course, your very conventional roles with respect to either HR or services or business operations is usually led by women. Even in our organization, we have a very good women count there. What we're really trying to do is bring unconventionally in roles where from project to operations have women leadership. And that has been a real struggle, right? And I wanted to understand from you, what do you think are enablers for women leadership to really look at those roles? One is it even possible in an HVAC industry to get a women leader doing that work right from project to operations at the ground level and build them ground up? If yes, what could be good enablers for them?
When you say, is it possible for anybody to take a leadership role in HVAC? So I'm a classic example. Of course, I am not from HVAC per se, but fire, which is like ancillary. By education, I am an IT engineer, information technology engineer. I was working for an IT company when, my family asked me to leave my job and come and join New Age Fire Fighting Company, which is, my grandfather started this company. So for me, back then, I'm talking about 20 years back, when IT was booming, okay, and we did not have the culture of having Saturdays and Sundays off. And working in an office did not mean sitting in an AC for the entire day, having so many perks, so many holidays, and so much of, entertainment and fun, and only like you get 8 hours ka job, but you only have to work for 3 or 4 hours because, coding was like that simple, and number of hours you can bill in was very different than the number of hours you really have to work. So IT was a very flashy, a very bright thing at that time. And when my dad and my brothers were after me कि आप बेटा job छोड़ दो, अपना खुद का company है, यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं आते? And very reluctantly I was like मैं क्या करूँगी? Mechanical आप लोग hydrant valves बनाते हो workshops में, मुझे कुछ समझ में भी नहीं आएगा. So I was not willing to do that. Very reluctantly I left my job. I came here. I asked my boss, कि मुझे 3 months का टाइम देना, 3 महीने में मैं कभी भी वापस आऊँगी तो यू हैव टू टेक मी बैक. On that shart, I left my job and I came to New Age. I joined this business. I used to go to workshops and everybody in the workshop, they used to gossip कि अरे ये मैडम को तो कुछ नहीं आता है, इनको क्या समझता है, ये रोज आ जाती है यहाँ पे खड़ी रहती है. And seriously, honestly, I didn't know anything. I used to go to them. I used to tell me अरे काका मुझे ये समझाओ, मुझे वो समझाओ, and they used to make jokes behind my back. And rightly so, because they knew much more than what I knew. But today I am sitting in front of you. I head the exports department for New Age Firefighting Company. I export the material to more than 62 countries. I also head the IT department, of course, because that is my background, original background. I head the HR department and I also head the imports department. And I think all of this was possible, and इसके लिए मुझे कोई ज़्यादा दिक्कत नहीं हुई. ओनली थिंग वॉज आई हैड टू मेक अप माई माइंड कि अरे अभी जो भी है ये करना ही है, करने लगो. तो इनिशियली इट वॉज लिटल बिट डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज आई लेफ्ट IT बैक. आई मीन मुझे जो सबसे ज़्यादा ये था वो ये था कि वो यहाँ पे तो सैटरडे भी काम करना पड़ेगा, संडे भी कुछ होगा तो वो भी देखना पड़ेगा बिकॉज इस घर का काम, राइट. But then it is all possible. So only thing is required is you should be able to put your mind towards it कि ये करना है, and it is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujal. And I would personally like to add to it as well. It is happening. Maybe not as fast as we hope, but I do see women in hard hats on the site. I do see a lot of quantity surveyors today actually measuring, taking measurements. Mr. Sandeep mentioned about a lot of, I think he has about 35 or 40 women staff who not just do, training, but they're part of different aspects of his contracting business. On the shop floor, we have women. We have our safety head is a woman in manufacturing. Of course, we're trying to get a safety woman at site. That's proving to be slightly more challenging, but in our factory, it's a woman. I know Miss Shama has a lot of women. I will never forget Miss Pinky, whom you mentioned in one of your talks. So she does employ a lot of women on her shop floor as well. So the change is happening. It is slow, but we're certainly hopeful of seeing larger numbers on the MEP side, yeah, to answer your question. Yes, I think
Ashu had this question.
Ashu.
Sorry? Oh, sorry. So I think great session. I think this is the session I was listening patiently last 1 hour. And I want to ask a question because I am Ashu Gupta. I am a society vice president for ISHRE. But I don't know, we have so many women leaders on the front, but I'd never seen a woman president of ISHRE. So when I can see the woman president of ISHRE in the last 45 years, I have not heard about it. So tell me, no, sir, I think I want to hire because the people you get active for 2-3 years, then you get deactivated. So this is what I want, the consistency, how we can see. I think Nivedita ma'am can better answer on it.
So,
because
Ashu, I'm active since 2010.
Right.
I have not taken a year of sabbatical or even a month of sabbatical for the past 15 years. As far as the leadership, presidentship is concerned, you abolish, take away the, वो zone-wise rotation करके president बनाने का, तो वो आ जाएंगे फिर आगे.
नहीं ma'am, I think
so it's all on you.
But that you are the one who started the Women at ISHRE initiative and this year the Women at ISHRE become I think a standing committee in ISHRE, which is very, very much recognition. But we want to see to more and more women because when I did my engineering, out of 126 engineers, 1 woman was there. So, but I don't know how we can motivate more young engineers who are coming in the industry, civil, electrical, mechanical background, doesn't have any single woman. So how we can motivate, that is something I want to understand. I can find more architects, definitely, architect has, but engineering background, we are very way behind. How we can motivate the young people, because like from IT, she moved to this industry. But you tell me how the young engineers who are learning in 12th class, how they can opt that this is also the one of the field they can come in the built environment industry.
So Ashu, I'll tell you, we have the K-12 program in ISHRE. And fortunately, when I was a K-12 chair, we started the STEM concept. So we started the STEM concept which actually should be utilized very well to encourage women to come into into the science field and thereby into the engineering field. So we have not really made capitalize on this particular aspect. Secondly, in fact, even today in the even engineering, people don't know about MEP. Engineer मतलब क्या होता है वो किसी को पता नहीं होता है, क्या करना होता है. आर्किटेक्ट को पता होता है उसको बिल्डिंग बनानी है, लेकिन इंजीनियर को पता नहीं होता है क्या करना है आगे. So it's our responsibility to actually go to the grassroots and try and educate them, show them the opportunities. We are missing out on all this, and this is one opportunity for you all to join ISHRE, be active, and not only it's not necessary females, even I mean आज हमारे इंडस्ट्री छोड़ के लोग दूसरे इंडस्ट्री में जाते हैं. I've seen engineers going back to become Ola and Uber drivers. Why? Because people don't really appreciate our industry. So the day you start feeling proud that you are an engineer first, and you would be proud to be in HVAC industry, in the HVAC industry, because आज हम लोग सबके बिना जी सकते हैं, लेकिन अच्छी हवा, खुली हवा, क्लीन हवा, ठंड हवा, उसके बिना नहीं जी सकते, और वो सिर्फ HVAC इंजीनियर्स ही दे सकते हैं. So be proud of yourself and get women engineers, join this force and make them realize. And it's not about someone else giving opportunity. For my women colleagues out here, no one is stopping you. It's only you yourself who are stopping yourself. So get out of your comfort zone and do something for yourself then and your country, and then to the world. Thank you.
We have one more question.
Can I say
there.
something?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
want to
and
say
Leena ma'am,
something. As per recent records, 37% of women are working in India, 63% are not working. You can consider them as a homemaker, housewife, whatever. What is their contribution in the decarbonization? Can you just highlight on that?
I can answer that maybe. Their contribution is more valid than the 30% working in the industry, because 30% working in the industry are trying to decarbonize something which all 100% population has carbonized. And I think behavioral change is something which is very, very important. However you have your technologies and designs done, if you don't use the technology and the space in a particular way, it's not going to deliver sustainability and decarbonization. And I think these homemakers or these ladies who are really taking care of the home and imbibing values are, contributing to this behavioral change, which is going to go a long way.
I would like to add here, it's a very, I would say, मतलब बड़ा unique सा question है, but very relevant, because जो homemakers हैं, the way they practice, the way they manage their houses, because जो decarbonization का idea है, वो हमारी age-old practices में है, and if women are supposed to be very good managers, थोड़े में ज़्यादा का show करना, थोड़े में मतलब if we recall our mothers how, and हम लोग I'm sure most of us must be coming from very humble background, and how the houses were managed, कम resources में हम ज़्यादा कैसे अच्छा कर लेते थे, वो जो thought है यदि वो बच्चों में inculcate हो रहा है, घर की practices में inculcate हो रहा है, तो I'm sure the future generations are safe. So they are contributing more to decarbonization and sustainable practices.
Sir, if I want to just take this ahead, आज की रोटी जो बची है वो कल उसका लड्डू बना के खिलाना ये इंडिया में ही सीखा है हमने. So Indian women especially are so used to, especially reuse, recycle everything. थैली आ गई, बेड के नीचे रख दो, यूज़ करना, कभी ना कभी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल जाएगी. पुरानी चीज़ें रहती हैं हमारे कबर्ड में, isn't it? So we have this inbuilt in our system, in not only Indian men, Indian women, and everyone, especially. I mean, I'm really proud to be an Indian from that perspective.
I saw Leena ma'am right there. So Leena ma'am is again a very accomplished architect from Bangalore. She was one of our panelists in the previous segment, and I'm so glad you're here today, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I said I must come and listen to this panel. So, Ashu was talking about not having a woman president for ISHRE. So I can tell you the Indian Institute of Architects, it's more than 100 years old, the institution. And in 100 years, there hasn't been one woman architect. And being a part of the institute, I can tell you it's a difficult task because, especially the IIA, it's a boys' club. And to break into it is not easy, but we are working at it. But it's not easy. It's not easy. So someday, Ashu, there will be someone. It's going to take a little time, but you're going to break that stereotype, and it's a struggle.
Thank you.
I want to add something to what Ashu was saying. So you have to understand that, getting involved in organizations like ISHRE, IIA, maybe IGBC, needs you to spend more time than what you would in your professional life. And till the men start taking some responsibility at home, this is not going to happen. So I think men have to understand this and give that space, and also start thinking of maybe creating a laddu of the remaining chapati the next day, and carry these values ahead.
Fantastic. I think
Excuse me, can I add something? This side.
Yes.
Okay,
please.
Ashu, I have the answer to your question. You said that how and when do we get a lady president? You see, you have decided to have a president from north, east, west, south on a rotation basis. The fifth slot should be a lady. The point is that unless and until there is one who gets the opportunity, you will never have any.
हम motion pass करने वालों
I'm sure.
Next RCC.
Huh? Oh, I don't mind at all.
Motion in the next RCC.
I'll do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. I would now request our session chair, Nivedita Jadhav, to share her closing remarks.
My closing remarks are not going to be short, so pardon me for this, because it's been such a wonderful session and wonderful audience as such. I can't thank you all for being here. I'll just summarize the session. 1 second, where the hell does this go? So we started with, 1 second, I just made some notes. I had no alternative but to make notes. So we all say, Dharti Mata. We don't say Dharti Pita. I would be happy to say Dharti Pita also, because I personally believe in gender. We are engineers. Since this is an HVAC engineer society, we are engineers. There's no gender in that. जो एक female कर सकती है. We've seen men who've been good, been more like a mother to their children, and mothers who've been very tough, and they've been very boisterous. So empathy is not restricted to women itself, but empathy is in generally is considered that okay, this is a main women feature. So जो Mother Earth है वो हमेशा वैसी ही रहेगी, and that's the first thing which I think Purva talked about when you started on this. The empathy is the biggest value that we normally look into women. You talked about the 10% percentage of women around. I really am looking forward to the percentage increasing. Ashu, I think you talked about when you were in college. मैं और 20 साल पहले की मैं जब कॉलेज में थी तभी भी हम लोग 3 लड़कियां थी, और आज भी अगर देखो तो परसेंटेज उसका ज़्यादा नहीं है. But I'll tell you, I have in my office, we have a civil engineer who's a woman, architect of course, we have 3 mechanical engineers. So the count is increasing, and our women engineers go for slab testing also. So it's not restricted to male oriented. In fact, this girl from Smart Juice, she asked about women leadership. We have Simple. Where is she? I think Simple. Yeah, Simple is just gone out. She is an ELV contractor. She's from Pune. We have Nilanjan out here. She's an HVAC contractor, and she's second generation entrepreneur. So we have quite a few women engineers, women leaders in our society. In fact, across the country, we have umpteen of them who've really risen and are leading their companies, leading their own organizations, or being a leader in their as an employee also. So we are nowhere behind. Talking about, Purva also talked about the architect and other stakeholders. We have to all come together at the beginning. Yes, that's absolutely important. An integrated approach is really required. Green building consultants, I'm sure there are many of them here, and they all need upskilling. It's not just ticking to get that rating. We have, have been also, I am currently and earlier also been part of the green building industry. So many clients do want us, ठीक है यार एक rating कैसे भी दिला दो. But it's our responsibility to, make them understand it's not just ticking, it's not just a certificate. It's our inherent responsibility to do something good for the society and of course to our pockets. When we have Shama talking about embodied energy, Shama, thank you for being a conscious manufacturer, because without that we will really not be able to talk about the entire life cycle. That's more important. You also talked about retrofitting. Retrofitting is not just for to save the carbon footprint. Again, everything boils down to business, and by retrofitting, you're going to save a lot of money also. So let's not keep it only for the government. Let's keep it for ourselves also. Shruti also talked about policy levels. Undoubtedly, government is doing quite a lot, but unfortunately, it's not reaching. See, government, it's we who as ISHRE, our advocacy committee, Sujal, you're part of it. So it's our responsibility to see how we can translate whatever government is doing for our industry, for the environment, is for us, our responsibility to reach out to them. There was one thing which Purva, I'll come back to you on NBC that you talked about. Fortunately, I've been part of the NBC 2025 revision. So, government does send every draft to n number of them. In fact, the committee also is formed of our committee. That's a part 8, section 3. So we have 150 people out there. But we try to reach every stakeholder. But if the stakeholders are not active, we cannot blame the government. Government pulls in people from the industry, and each stakeholder is responsible to give in their inputs. When the draft reaches to everyone, it's our responsibility to go through it, give inputs. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि बन तो गया, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट को अगर रिस्पॉन्स नहीं मिला तो जो छप गया वो छप गया, फिर हम लोग बोलते हैं नहीं ये सही नहीं वो सही नहीं है. So there's no point in blaming the responsibility. It's our responsibility equally. Sustainability is not the choice, Shruti, right? It's absolutely deep, very much necessary. And as I earlier said, in India, it's deep-rooted. Just that we've tried to follow the Western culture. We've just got to get back to our Indian culture. Sujal very rightly pointed out about the way the fire industry is really considering. In fact, it was I had forgotten about how mist is playing an important role compared to a blast of water, and of course the foam also being changed. So there's small aspects which everyone is taking. It's just that there's a lot of ignorance. These things are not brought to our notice. Sandeep, you've been a great supporter to women. I know it personally, and thank you for accepting to be here. I've personally witnessed I've seen his skill center, and I've interacted with his women engineers. They're amazing, they're brilliant. So this Sandeep is not just one example. There are n number of companies in India, and small companies especially, who've benefited by hiring diploma holders, women engineers. And Sandeep, I remember you telling me your people are with you for 15 to 16 years. So that's one advantage which women stick around for a longer time compared to men who, I'm sorry, I don't want to generalize, but many of them jump 2 saal mein, better opportunity. You have your own challenges. Women are relatively stable. ठीक है यार, इतने expectations, aspirations नहीं होते हैं. So that's one big advantage of having women. Lastly, Nisha, wonderfully moderated. And I didn't feel this was a women's panel or, brought by women in ISHRE. I felt this was a panel which proved that women don't talk about only women equality. This panel talked about everything but women equality. So thank you very much for making this panel interesting. That's all from me. Thank you.
Just in closing remarks, so when this idea came up for an all-women panel, we were very clear that we did not want to make this about empowerment in any form because we are already empowered. And I was inviting some of my friends to come by and I said, we have an all-women panel. So he was like, "Main kya karunga udhar?" So I was like, no, please come. You're going to be quite surprised. And I think they wouldn't be disappointed. And like Nivedita ma'am mentioned, I did personally want to also cover all your core expertise, your technical expertise, and I hope we've done justice for that.
Wow, what a wonderful session. Even I believe in equality. मैं कुछ women के बारे में कहने जा रही थी, but सबके विचारों को सुनते हुए I will not say anything, but a big round of applause to our women panelists. Sorry, Mr. Sandeep, you are also there. You are welcome. But still, थोड़ा positive side है मेरा women के लिए. A big round of applause once again. Now, I have a small announcement. We have a quiz after this session. And I request all our panelists to please participate in that quiz also. Now we'll move on. I request Ms. Nivedita Jadhav to please felicitate our moderator, Ms. Nisha, with a memento. Can I have the memento, please?
Great job.
Ms. Anjali Sen, Nivedita, I request you to please felicitate. Yeah, I request Ms. Nisha also to please join Nivedita. Purva Keskar. Architect Purva Keskar. Architect Shruti Purohit. Ms. Sujal Shah. Shama Jain. Mr. Sandeep Chinoy. Request our panelists to please be seated. I would like to call upon now Mr. Pramod Sharma and Mr. Sapan Shah to please come and felicitate our session chair, Ms. Nivedita Jadhav. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay.